Hello and good morning.
Good morning, Arrow.
Hey, what's up, man?
Oh, my God. Don't even start. I can take up 18 minutes just telling you what's up.
That may be more interesting. I want to hear.
No, I don't think so. I definitely not. I think what you have to say is much more interesting. Arrow, you have 18 minutes. Take it away.
Good morning. How are you doing today, Carole?
Arrow, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. This is wonderful.
First and foremost, only because I am such a big listener of you, you can cuss on this show. You let it loose.
Oh my God, I can. This is so fucking great. I love it. I love it. You know, it's really hard for me to refrain, you know?
Oh, I love it when you let words fly because it's like, I'll sit there and I'll go, oh, she's showing her passion. She's showing her emotions. I love this.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for the permission.
Another thing that we need to talk about right away, because I want listeners to really dig deep into something that you promote on your podcast, and that is DNA Doe Project. What is it? How can they get involved? Because you're on a mission. In fact, I think it's even bigger than a mission. I think you've been called to do this.
Yeah, gosh, you are so kind to let us talk about DNA Doe. They've been an amazing collaborator in season 2. Raul Montero. You can find him on Facebook. I follow him. He's just a fabulous man. He established this not-for-profit organization back in 2017. And sorry, I've got this frog in my voice. He's dedicated to using this investigative genetic genealogy, and he helps identify John and Jane Does. And he's just an amazing man. He's just committed, passionate. Every day, it's so sad. I mean, every day he's posting these people that are not found and or that he has identified, he and the volunteers. So people can reach out and get involved with him. It's an amazing organization.
I was so impressed with the way that you set up season 2, because for people that either are just discovering it or need to be updated, I mean, you really put a lot of focus on take that 1 or 2 steps back. Now let's get on.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Season 1, I mean, look, we came together to solve a crime, us amateur girlfriend, sleuth detectives, and we're really proud of that. And, a big shout out to my dear friend, Mindy Shapiro, who's a physician. She took a lead role in the investigation from the West Coast. And then in season 2, Anna Sinfield from Novel and her team took a lead role in the second season. But my heart goes out to Elaine Katz, the sister of Gail Katz, who we identified as the murdered woman in season 1. She's passionate and committed to helping everyone find unidentified people and bringing peace to those families.
Well, I can't imagine the years that went by and the wrong body is in the ground. I just can't imagine that, and how that must have been so heavy on the family. Was it not? What are we going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do.
Oh my God. It was such a shit show.
Yeah.
For, for poor Elaine, here she is dealing with her sister, and now she's got to figure out, what do I do with this missing torso, or, this unidentified torso? And, my heart goes out to Elaine and her family. Elaine is this badass woman who just does the right thing for the right reasons. And she got very involved in season 2 to help bring justice and help bring a voice to the unidentified torso that we were calling Jane Doe. And I don't want to give away spoilers, but we do find out the identity of the torso. We tell her story, I think, in a beautiful way, in a way that really gives justice to this Jane Doe against this horror that was just sickening and unjust end to her life. And the listeners can hear Dr. Mindy Shapiro. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they're going to hear Anna Sinfield, and they're going to hear from Elaine. And people just love Elaine. She's got a fierce voice, a soft heart, and she's just badass. I tell her all the time, she's just a badass.
And no matter what, when you go to Elaine's house, you have to eat the food. I mean, it doesn't matter what's on that table, you got to eat the food.
Oh my God, eat the food and drink the wine. Okay. So we show up at her house and, this past November and we all have wine. She's got wine. We have way too much food and, we're Jewish. So what do? We eat and we drink and we have fun. And, what I love about Elaine is that I can cry with Elaine and I can laugh with Elaine. And I know Anna and Mindy and all of us feel the same. So she's just an amazing woman. I do want to do a shout out to No More, because No More we partnered with in season 1. And there are so many women, 1 in 3 experience domestic violence at some point during their lives, and 1 in 4 men experience domestic violence at some point in their lives. And almost daily, I get contacted through my social media channels about thanking me for providing a voice, for encouraging, to ask for help. So nomore.org, I just need to put a shout out to them, because if you're experiencing domestic violence and or you need resources, please reach out to them. Sorry about my voice.
You're fine. You're fine. Being natural is everything that you are. And I think that's the reason why I'm so tapped into the girlfriends, our lost sisters, the fact that everybody on there is themselves. You're not trying to pretend to be, a Ryan Seacrest or somebody like that. What you're on there doing is just being you.
That is so kind of you to say. I've gone on interviews and people are like, "Oh my gosh, you sound like yourself."
Yeah.
I'm like, I played myself. I had never listened to a podcast before. Yeah. And I thought maybe a couple thousand people would hear this podcast. I didn't realize millions of people would hear it. And I just performed me. So what you see is what you get. And I have a bad mouth, as you know. So, it was to my advantage that they allowed me to use my voice and my mouth during both season 1 and 2. And it's been just a privilege to be a voice for Gail and for the Jane Doe, that if people turn it into season 2, which I'm sure they will, so many people have, to be her voice too. And get to know her family. Oh my gosh, I should mention, we find her family. Mm-hmm. And get this, some of the family live 10 minutes away from my home outside of New Orleans. It's crazy freaking story. Just crazy.
See, that to me is the universe speaking, because I totally believe that all things are moving around us. And when they find an open person such as yourself, they're going to come tapping on your heart.
Oh my gosh, I love that you just said that. I am such a believer that the universe delivers. And I've got to believe that this woman that I'll still call Jane Doe, and Gail, they aligned it so that we all are richer and have better lives together. And I've become dear friends with this Jane Doe's family. They're just lovely, lovely people.
One of the things that was heavy on my heart as I was, experiencing the podcast is I kept going, Carole and the girls have got to be able to team up with a group of people to find out the big mystery of all of these indigenous women that are missing. I just feel like that the 4 of you have the balls to sit there and sit at drinking wine and having dinner and trying to figure out what other people cannot figure out.
Well, I have a day job, okay?
No, stop it.
I know, I can't believe it. And it has occurred to me that it's a calling, but I do have a day job and I do other work. Everything I do is around social impact, and I'm privileged for that. But I hear what you're saying, and you're not the first person to suggest that we continue in these endeavors. But there are no plans as of right now to help identify other missing women. But the girlfriends will continue with the new host each season. Oh, wow. And but I've been the voice, and the face for the first 2 seasons, and that's just been an incredible experience. And I'm excited to see what's next for the new hosts that solve crimes.
Oh my God! Because of course, my question is now: how do you relinquish it? I mean, because it's yours. You are the identity. You are that morning show host of a New York City radio station. You're that person.
Oh my gosh, you are so kind. Well, I let go with love. I'm always available. If iHeart and Novel want me back, I would always make myself available. And I know Mindy would too, and I know Elaine would too. But, there's different stories with different hosts, and I get it. And so I believe, like you said earlier, the universe has in store what it does, and we'll see where this goes.
Wow.
But I think season 3, I met the new host. She seems fabulous, and we'll see how she does. can only imagine she'll rock it like we did.
Wow. One of the scenes that as a writer and a producer that I really loved inside season 2 was when you went up to Staten Island and there was that fence, and the way that you described that fence and that you were not going to let that fence get in the way. I laughed because you took me there like the way that the episodes of Radio Mystery Theater used to do. In other words, I saw it. I was driving in the frickin' car, but yet I saw what you were doing.
I'm so glad that you could visualize that. I'm like, what the fuck? A fence? Really?
Yep.
Like, this is going to get in our way now? We're the wire cutters. So, we do whatever we need to do. We are relentless women, and we were on a mission. So fence or no fence, we were getting through, and we did. And it was a very tender, warm.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was really special being at that place. And I get chills just telling you about that, because it moved my heart more than I can explain. It was life-changing.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, even when you arrive into that special spot, you knew that you were in that spot. And because I kept going, where are they going? Where are they going? Okay, we've all been on a wild goose chase before, but it's like when you guys got there, it was like, they're there. They're there. I can hear it in their voice. They're there.
Yeah. And to think that we're there and Jane Doe knows, I've got to believe that she knows that we're there, and we're putting our arms around her, and including Gail, and saying, we've got your back and we've got your voice. I felt that moment, and I feel it now as I share that with you. Yeah.
Wow. So one of the things that listeners need to understand with the transition of the way the podcasts are going is that your podcast comes with transcripts. And I like that because when I miss something because I was halfway listening, or I was, because I was driving, there was a car that was doing something really weird in front of me, I can go back to those transcripts and see exactly what you guys were doing. I think that is such an amazing thing that you're doing with iHeart.
Oh my gosh. Well, I didn't know there were transcripts.
Yes.
So,
it is such a great tool. It really, it helps me out.
That's fabulous. Oh, that's great. Here's the funny thing. I've never listened to a podcast before I did this, and I've never listened to one since. So I have not been on the site. So I'll have to check it out and look at the transcripts. Yeah. That's wonderful. So you don't miss anything. I love that.
You don't. And even as it's happening, what happens is it draws you even deeper into it, because you guys are allowing the sounds of the atmosphere that you step into come alive. In other words, and I don't, I'm not going to sit here and say that, it's just a production library. I don't think so. I think you guys had microphones going at all times.
Well, I'll tell you, Anna Sinfeld is an amazing producer. Her colleagues at Novel, I mean, they know what they're doing, and she really helped bring this story to life. I'm forever grateful to iHeart Podcast, because they saw the value, and they allowed us to help other women too, and men, but really other women. And that's a unique spin in a true crime podcast.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I was with iHeart in the days when Robert Pittman had this big meeting with all the radio stations, and he says, I'm introducing to you something called iHeart Radio. Nobody in the world knew what it was, but this man's vision and what we did as a company, and then you get the opportunity to do this. I mean, the journey to be in this moment of now, my God, it has been so incredible for people like yourself to have a voice.
Just to be on your show. Okay, can we talk about that? I am now on a national radio show talking about domestic violence, talking about the girlfriends, talking about, all these projects. I mean, it's amazing to me, and I pinch myself every day. So none of it is lost on me, on the vision that was had way back when.
So what didn't make it to this season of the podcast? And the reason why is because, like I said, I'm an editor. I know what stays, what goes, what has to, what has the impact and stuff. But you guys had to have had those microphones always going at the same time. What didn't make it that you kind of sit back going, maybe we should have done that?
I don't think there's anything we should have done we didn't do, but we did leave out some of the very gruesome details. It was a really bad freaking story. Like it was just fucked up.
Yep.
I don't, it's something I never wish on anyone, how that Jane Doe's life ended and how her life was lived. I mean, she just had not a chance at a very young age. And so we left out some of the information about, I don't know, some of the horrors because it didn't serve her well. I want her to be remembered as this independent, fierce woman who, and she was incredibly fierce, incredibly talented in a different way that just she didn't get to shine that light on herself because of dysfunction in family and how she was raised.
Why do I feel like she's alive in you right now? I really do. I believe in spirit guides and spirit keepers.
God, I love you. I got to tell you, she's with me, and so is Gail. Yep. And I get signs all the time from the two of them, and that sounds crazy, but they are very much alive, and I will do everything I can to continue to be a voice for those two women. They were, really special.
You talked about that even though that in the next season you guys are going to be doing something differently, but the thing is though, the collection that you have here with the whining and the dining and the laughs and the to sit there and interrogate each other to the point where you're getting answers that you wouldn't get if you were in a supermarket. But I mean, is this going to continue somehow, some way in your own personal lives? Are you still going to remain that close?
Oh my gosh, of course. Well, first of all, we all love wine. Yeah. And right. So yeah. Anna is with Novel, the producer. She lives in London, and she's actually been to my home, and I live kind of like on a farm here outside of New Orleans. She's also been to my home in Las Vegas and my mother's home in Las Vegas because I tether my time. And I can't imagine that we're breaking up. We will be friends for life. And Elaine, I just talked to her a couple weeks ago. She's doing great. She's enjoying her grandson and working hard. And so Mindy and I keep in touch. So all of us are connected. Mm-hmm. And I cannot imagine that we won't stay connected. And I am so honored and privileged to have the new friends that I've made through who I still will call on your show, Jane Doe. Mm-hmm. I talk to Jane Doe's aunt quite frequently, and she's an amazing woman, and I consider her today a dear friend.
All right, you said something that caught my attention big time. You said you live out on that farm, and because I live in a forest, and these trees are my life, so I have to really step deeper into this connection that you've got with the universe. Because if you're out there on that farm, I've always learned and truly believe that the mushrooms that live beneath the surface are the communicators, and they carry messages. Now I know why you've been called to this, because your land is what's speaking to you.
And we may have some mushrooms on this property.
Oh, I bet you do. You have to go into the soil because that's how trees live. That's how they communicate with each other, is through the mushrooms.
You are so right. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I could go on and on about that. But yeah, we're very connected to the universe and nature and beyond on this property. And you feel it when you walk in. People don't ever want to leave our home. Yep. It's a fabulous environment, I'm sure, like yours.
Well, yeah, there's just something here, and that's why if I ever win the lottery, I'm going to buy every house in this area, tear them down, and turn this into a writer's paradise. I want creative people to come here to experience the earth.
I love that. Do you have animals like I do?
I've got the deer. Oh my God, I love my deer. I even love every snake that I see out there. And yesterday I had turtles having sex in my front yard. I love that stuff.
Oh my God, I've seen turtles but not having sex.
Oh
but
my God, it's so funny.
Oh my God, I hope they don't break their shell. But we have a shitload of animals. So I've got 3 horses. We've got a pet pig. We've got some goats. We've got a lot of ducks. Way too many chickens. And so. We're enjoying it, and I'm looking for a donkey right now. I really want
donkey.
Yeah, wouldn't that be so fun? Yeah, I love how they talk. Yeah.
They do talk, and the thing is, though, is that you've got to become the listener so that they have something to talk to.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, just have the 4 of you girls been together on your farm?
Not all at the same time.
Okay.
And you know what? You're right. I need to do that. I need to host a girlfriend's event on the farm. I have enough bedrooms and enough. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Maybe you should join us. Come down and facilitate some conversation, drink some wine. I don't know. Yeah. That'd be great.
I'll be out there looking at the worms. Trust me. I'll look at the worms. Yeah. I'll look at the blades of grass. I'll be studying everything that's on that farm.
And you can appreciate the snakes because I'm scared shitless of them. So you can have that honor.
No, I love me some snakes. You got to come back to this show anytime, Carole. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh, you are so kind. Thank you. Be careful what you offer. I might just take you up on that. And I can't thank you enough for having me on and for, highlighting the girlfriends, because we're proud of the work. And Our Lost Sister season 2 with the 5 episodes is just another wonderful story that's tragic but heartwarming all at the same time.
Wow. You be brilliant today, okay?
All right. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Later, Arrow.
Bye. Hello and good morning.
Good morning, Funky
Hey there.
Hey, you two.
Here is Miss Jasmine. She is all yours for the next 20.
Jasmine, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's raining in New York City, but other than that, it's a good day.
Oh, I love me some rain, man. That means the trees are getting some food.
Yeah, and it's been a really dry summer, so I think all the trees really need it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Sacred Scandal. And the reason why is because there's so much of this, there's history in this. And what I mean by that is that during the 1980s and even into the 90s, we knew of the war that broke out in that part of the world, but we didn't know what was taking place before that. And I could be wrong here, but isn't this what became the war with the Sandinistas?
So that's next door in Nicaragua, but it is very, very related and partially like the same causes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you had me at hello when this first opened up, because we don't know about that part of the world. And the Archbishop was so loved.
Truly. Yeah. I mean, even now there is a statue of the Archbishop Oscar Romero in Westminster Abbey next to a statue of Martin Luther King. And it is incredible to me that more people don't know about his story. And I say that as someone who didn't know about his story until a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So just to give you a little context on all of this, my family is from El Salvador. They immigrated to the U.S. in 1981. And I was the first person in my family to be born in the U.S. I was born in Los Angeles, California. And my parents never talked about Oscar Romero or the war or any of this with me and my sisters. And I think when you're the child of immigrants, sometimes families are leaving something that's so painful behind, and also you're trying to survive the present. There's not a lot of room to talk about the past. And so they really never taught us about this history. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I realized who this man was. And I started looking into his story, and I was like, oh, he's from the same town as my parents. And well, his name is Oscar Romero and my name is Jasmine Romero. Like, is this man my uncle? Are we related? And so I started looking into his story, and I found that not only did my family know him, but that there was an unsolved murder in my family that connected back to his story. And that's really what the show has become. It's this intertwined story about Oscar Romero and about my family.
It is so evenly paced out. In other words, you're not rushing to tell this story. You allow us as listeners to physically become part of the story, like we're standing right there with you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was important to me that listeners didn't feel bad about not knowing any of this, because you're really discovering it alongside me. Mm-hmm. If I, a person who is from El Salvador and whose family knew this man, didn't know about it, like, it's not your fault that you don't know about this. And it's partially because we are not taught these histories in history class. There is so much information that we just never get. And I think it's partially because history keeps repeating. And, if you don't know that this happened, then you think that this is the first time that it's happening, but it's really not. And this history, this story, it keeps echoing into the present. So many things that are happening now connect directly back to this moment in 1980. when Oscar Romero is assassinated while he's preaching on the pulpit.
And one of the things that I love you for doing this is because in martial arts, in order to become that third degree black belt, the one thing that they really hit in our hearts was the fact that if you do not tell the story, then what happens is it becomes so lost and so dented by interpretation. And so I feel like that you were called back to this story to make sure that those beyond us are going to get something, we're going to get it straight is what we're going to do. And it's not going to be a dented or a dinged up little situation.
Absolutely. And I really, going back to Martin Luther King and Oscar Romero's story and how it parallels him, I think Oscar Romero has become this figure in El Salvador, very similar to Dr. King, where, now politicians will invoke his name and there's this love of him and the airport is named after him. And, there's no acknowledgement of the fact that not that long ago in 1980, a lot of people were not on his side and did not agree with him. And I think the same thing has happened with Dr. King, where they become a symbol and a figure of an idea. But people forget that when these people were alive, the same people that now are like, oh, we honor Dr. King. It's like, well, I don't think you were rolling with him when he was alive. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. So true. So how does a holy man become part of a holy war?
Well, so the war in El Salvador really is intertwined with the Catholic Church in a lot of ways. El Salvador is an incredibly Catholic country. It's literally named after Jesus, El Salvador, the Savior. And when Oscar Romero is assassinated on the pulpit as he's preaching, it really sends a signal to the country of, we are willing to kill even the holiest man, even the most revered person among you. And throughout the war, Catholic preachers, nuns, lay workers, catechists are specifically targeted because of what they symbolize in the community. And, the El Salvador's war really was a proxy war within the larger Cold War that was happening between the US and Russia, because at the same time that El Salvador is going through these changes and there's a revolution, communism there's another Red Scare happening around the world. And so the communist battle and the battle for equality in El Salvador sort of become intertwined, and the priests become this middle ground. And so the government really looks to them to see who they're going to side with. And, El Salvador, the government of El Salvador is very complicit with the death squads that arise that are going out and committing assassinations and kidnappings and tortures in the night. And those death squads specifically target Catholic workers.
Oh my God.
And so it's an incredible story that I feel like not enough people know about, and that really speaks to the current moment, because when you look at the composition of the US, Salvadorans are the third largest Latino group in the US.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with people who migrated from El Salvador during this time, my family included.
And this involves more than just the archbishop, because I mean, Margarita disappears with 4 men. There are 4 Catholic nuns that are found dead. I mean, it's like this thing just continued to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, so the show really takes you through the history chronologically, but it also sort of is like an onion where each episode expands the story a little further. So it starts with the Archbishop's murder and, an introduction to my family. And then we talk about 4 U.S. nuns that were killed in El Salvador, taken by the death squads. And then you go back to my family, because my mom's sister, Margarita, my aunt, who I never got to meet, was kidnapped and murdered by death squads. And her story, I didn't really know the ins and outs of her story. It was this unsolved murder in our family. And it wasn't until I started doing this investigation that I really found the root cause. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it really speaks to how once violence, and so each episode goes expanding the story until we arrive at the present. And so the last episode that we just launched last week is about MS-13 and Barrio 18, the gangs that have really controlled Salvadoran life for the last 30 years. And then this week, we're talking about Nayib Bukele, El Salvador's current president.
Yeah, when I got to the podcast about the MS-13, all of a sudden I started looking at our own streets, and it was because that, once again, we don't know the true roots of where all of this started, and I love your honesty and your transparency in this, in allowing us to step into the history that you researched.
Yeah. And, it just hits so close to home. I think most people in the US, what they know about El Salvador is the gangs. It's been the only story that's been told for so long, is this El Salvador is this violent place with violent people. Yeah. And all of this descends from the Civil War, a conflict that the US is very, very involved in and really funds. But going back to MS-13, my family has people that are in these gangs. We've had people that were killed by the gangs, and we've had people that are in the gangs that are now in jail. And it's a thing that, I don't want to keep telling the same story about El Salvador, but I also have to acknowledge the truth of it, that these gangs have infiltrated every aspect of life and families, normal families like mine.
And it's really interesting because you said this in the very beginning, that you can see today's news headlines and see that what was taking place back in the 1980s is happening even today with the world of religion, with what's going on in Mexico, the groups that are there. I mean, it's all over the place, and it's all happened once before.
Absolutely. And I think, not to get too political with it, but I think when you look at what's happening in Palestine, yes, the U.S. funding is part of what is causing this devastation in this foreign country, in this small, tiny foreign country that is symbolic of so many other things. And I think people forget when it's a headline that there are people that that are connected to these places. It's hard to throw a rock in the United States and not hit a Salvadoran. We are everywhere. And, people think that the migration crisis, it's like, it's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening because of U.S. intervention, because of what our tax dollars are funding. And unless we learn about these histories, we can't stop repeating them. Yeah. And I think a lot of what happened in 1980 reverberates into today.
In a really cool way, are you not an activator in the way of activating our hearts into seeing a different kind of story?
I hope so. Yeah. I spent the last couple of years working on this. I got to admit, it was really hard. It's hard to go into your own family and ask about, Mom, tell me about your sister that was murdered. Like, it was really dark. But I also am incredibly proud of the work that I did, because I myself didn't realize how alive history is in our current moment, how much it speaks to what's happening now. And I feel like, it's a corny way of saying it, but now I feel like I can see through the matrix, and I can see these same stories of what happened in El Salvador in the stories of what's happening all over the world now. And I can't be blind to it anymore. And I really hope that that's what people come out of this show feeling, is, realizing how much history repeats, and hopefully doing what they can to stop it from repeating, because, the pain and the hurt that happened 40 years ago is still very much alive today. Oh,
I know that true. And here's the thing. They always say that what we do today affects the next 7 generations. Yeah, what is this, only generation number 2 or 3? I mean, there's still 4 more that are going to be affected by it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And, when you don't do these investigations, when you don't talk to your parents and your grandparents, you're just carrying around this hurt, and you don't know what it is or why you feel this way or where any of this comes from. I think that's what they say about generational trauma, right? And until you learn about it, you can't really start fixing it in yourself. You can't solve a problem that you don't know you have. And I think until we talk about these things with our families, we don't see it in ourselves. It's funny, my husband, his family came from Europe during the Holocaust, and him watching me do this has really inspired him to start talking to his mom and his family, and to find those lost stories that he's never heard before.
How did you stay committed to this? And I'm coming from a podcaster's side, where I meet everybody who thinks they're doing podcasting, but they only do 1 or 2 episodes and then walk away. How did you keep 2 years of your life so focused in on this, and then to have this amazing platform like iHeartRadio to allow you to tell this story? You've got some loyalty and dedication inside your soul.
Yeah, well, I have not read a serious book in 2 years. I read a lot of romance novels and comedy. I watched a lot of comedy movies because the work was so heavy that I couldn't engage. My husband was like, let's go see Oppenheimer. And I was like, let's not. I cannot do that right now. I realized that I was carrying the torch of my family. You know, my mom's sister Margarita was taken by the death squads, and when you talk about 75,000 people dead, that's a number. My tia Margarita was a person, and her name never appeared in a newspaper. Her death happened in the middle of a very violent time. She is just one of 75,000 people. And I knew that by doing this work and taking on the burden of doing this really sad and heavy work, that I was honoring her life and making her life matter in a way that it hadn't at the time. And hopefully people will see her story in the stories of people in their own families and in the stories of things that are happening now. It's very heavy and serious work. That I'm incredibly grateful that iHeart, you know, took a chance on this story and allowed me to sort of peel back the onion on this story.
Well, they totally get it. They understand that we all want to hear stories. I mean, even Dolly Parton will tell you that country music is nothing more than a story. This is what happened in Farmer John's backyard, and it's now a country song, and we're all singing it. So, and I think that's what I love about this podcast is the fact that you are sharing it in story form. You're not sitting there as a journalist reporting the news. You're sharing the story.
Well, 100%. And I think there is something really special about the personal connection that I have to this story. So the show is really a mix of personal narrative, history, and true crime as I'm trying to solve these murders in real time as I'm doing this reporting. And I think it's hard to look at someone else's story when they're telling you about their mother, their father, their cousin, these people that are intimately connected to me, and not see your own family. You know, not everybody goes through a war. I've never gone through a war in my lifetime, but certainly I can connect to the things that my mom went through, you know, leaving the only place that she'd ever known as a teenager with 3 young girls to travel across the border to a place where she doesn't even speak the language. There is so much courage in her story, so much conviction, and it really allowed me to understand my mom in a whole new way, to really hear it from her firsthand. And in her story, I was able to see echoes of myself and to see, oh, that's where I get my courage from or my determination from, you know. I have a lot, you know, moms, it's tough with moms, you know, my mom's she's still my mom. She still gets on my nerves sometimes. But I have so much more grace for her after hearing all of these stories and understanding her in such a different way.
How tough was it to sit down and have a conversation with Vilma?
Oh, well, my Aunt Vilma, it's not hard to have a conversation with Vilma, actually, because my Aunt Vilma will have you crying and laughing in the same sentence. She is an incredible storyteller, and she has gone through so much in her life. She was there the night that my aunt Margarita was kidnapped, and the way that she tells that story, you know, saying goodbye to her sister and going home and not knowing that was the last time that she was going to see her. It is she will immediately put you in the moment, and she remembers details like it was yesterday. And to see someone like her who can still smile and laugh even after all that she's been through, it is an incredible experience. And so it was hard to hear these stories. She had me crying in the interview, which did not make me feel like a very serious journalist. She definitely had me crying, but she also would have me laughing the next sentence. And so I am so glad that I was able to share my Tia Vilma's voice with the world, because she is an extraordinary person. Wow.
I'm just proud of you for not forgetting or setting aside the history of that part of the world, because it's getting a bad rap right now. And it's like, no. Real people, real lives, have always been a part of that journey forward. And a podcast like this really does introduce us to the lifestyle and to the reality as well. Like you said, laugh, cry, everything. All the emotions are on this podcast.
Thank you. I really hope that people could see themselves in my family. Yeah. You know, my family is not any different from any other person's family. My parents wanted good things for their kids. They wanted a regular job that would provide for their family. They wanted to be safe. They wanted a good education for their kids. It's the same thing that every family wants. They just happen to be born in extraordinary circumstances. Yeah. And so the show is really the story of a regular American family trying to survive. Wow. and we just happen to be connected to, you know, one of the most important historical figures of the 20th century. So
you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully next time we have something happier to talk about. The other thing that I do other than, you know, serious journalistic work is make shows for kids. And I'm working on something about an anthropomorphic booger named Marcus the Mucus. So hopefully next time we can talk about that.
I want that story. Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, Arrow, you're muted, FYI.
Okay. I am? Oh. There we go.
Right on. So once Robert unmutes, you'll have until the top of the hour. That's okay.
I love it. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Hi, guys. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
No worries. You're with Arrow from Charlotte.
Good morning, Robert.
All right. Hi. How are you?
Doing fantastic. I have experienced the movie, and this is one of those movies.
Oh, great.
Oh, my God. I want to go back and watch it over and over again because I just feel like there's so much that I'm picking up every single time I view it.
Amazing. Yeah, there's a lot. It is. I mean, I directed the film, so I can maybe I can say this, but there's a lot of little details in there that I think in the first viewing you'll pick up on, and you'll get the main story across, but then you go back and you see it again and you're like, you pick on these little subtle choices that we made.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot in there. There's a lot of story in there.
The relationship with Rin and his stepfather. That's one little area that I want to go back and visit because I want to understand it in the very beginning, because it took me a little bit further down in the storyline to really grip. It's like, oh man, I didn't pick up on this in the very beginning. What was I doing? How did I miss this?
Right. Yeah, with David Arquette's character.
I think maybe I was just being wowed that David Arquette was in a movie. I mean, it just took me by surprise. That was like, oh, dang, that's David Arquette.
I know. And by the way, everybody in the film is so great. You know, you've seen it. Like, everyone really shines in the film, and every character. And it's an ensemble. You know, Nick is the lead, carries the film, and then you have an ensemble around this character's journey. But David Arquette, just like when he walked in, his first day on set as this character named Rick.
Yep.
We were all just like, oh my God, this, like, Nick's face was just like, well, this is like the best. Like, you couldn't imagine someone else in this role. When the lines came out of his mouth, you were like, wow, this is incredible. Like, it's funny because all these actors, I think, make you wonder. Like, they kind of like spark this idea of like, what's going on with these? Like, you're thinking like, what's going on with these characters? They just have so much going on behind their eyes that make you wonder. And I think David, you're meant to like feel a little off-put by the stepdad character, because our lead character Ren and David's character Rick have a past that we will soon find out is like rich with like some turbulence, but we will see. But then you also can kind of understand Rick at times and get his perspectives. Like, I get kind of why he was the way he was at times, and like what his fears were dealing with the situation. But yeah, when he walks into that dinner with the family and he's late and he has the drink in hand already, and it's those are the subtle things. Like, the mother was at treatment, you know, and that's sort of their backstory, is that just the Rick character wasn't really there, you know, for Lily, and you know, and that can happen. That's not uncommon in a marriage, in a relationship, when there's an event that takes place that's like such a big event. Sometimes people are there and sometimes people aren't. It's just we can judge it all day long. It's real. It's the truth.
Yeah, because, you know, one of the things that I felt in watching the movie, it's almost like that you took a page out of every one of our lives and you're sharing this story. Because, I mean, we all have something that has happened in our family, and sometimes people don't find out about it till 20, 30 years down the road, and they go, well, why didn't you tell me? We didn't think it was important. I mean, I'll tell you one of the touching scenes that I saw, and it says so much, and I don't want to spoil the movie, but the final scene with Rick, you know, in that moment where he was trying to make a connection, and it was like, I forgave him. Everything. It was like, oh my God, thought that was a moment for guys, because guys have relationships with stepfathers or their real fathers, and that was a guy moment.
Yeah. Totally. I think that moment is very much a release in the film.
Yes.
I mean, we took it to another level as far as what we've experienced in the film that far, but it really is a moment for them to kind of get it out and work it out. And again, like, I think I don't want to say everything in the movie, but obviously from that moment on, I think Ren kind of is able to kind of become, I guess, find himself in this sort of acceptance of realizing he didn't handle everything perfectly himself as well, that we all have our flaws, even the people that we, want to point to as they're the one with the problem. We have to sometimes look in at ourselves and kind of reflect on and see what we could be doing better as well. But that I love that moment in the movie. That was a big scene to shoot as well, because it's hard to hit the ground running right in the beginning of the day. You just have to go to that place emotionally. And you have to, and there was a lot of dialogue in that scene, and Ren and Rick are kind of going at it. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I think I love that moment in the movie, but I love that this movie has so many different sides to it.
It does.
Like I love the sort of like kind of ridiculousness of that Father Dan sequence of like outside the house, to kind of we land in a moment of truth when he kind of talks about his mother Lily. We go into these flashbacks that kind of bring joy, seeing Elizabeth Shue in these flashbacks. Yeah, it's just it's what life is. It's ups and downs. I mean, I think my job was to balance heart and comedy in this film as a director. It was how do I emphasize these more weighty ideas of what grief is and the truth of it by sort of using comedy as a way to kind of shine a light on it. Yeah. So that was my sort of tactic. But I love the flashback thing. I've never made, and I've made different movies so far in my life, but the idea of these like flashback scenes, I've never kind of encountered having to execute. How do I do that? But I love I love match cuts in movies where you go from a hand on a doorknob, you cut back, and that hand on the doorknob is now back in 1965 or whatever. You use those are called match cuts. And that's what I love using match cuts. Kind of that was our way in and out of the flashbacks. If you go back and watch it, you'll see also we use audio, we use sound as a way to kind of trigger emotions, because that's very true.
You know what? I was going to tell you about the flashbacks, so that you're being very fair and very faithful to us as viewers with those flashbacks, because we don't go, what the hell's going on here? We knew what was going on. We embraced it, and if anything, it thickened up the story even more with Elizabeth Shue, because we got a better picture of why Ren is Ren, and so then we fall even deeper in love with Ren.
That's right. Yeah, I think the mother is a very lovable character. And she obviously very much, like, we say in the film that he took after mom and Lee, the sister, took after dad. Yeah. She was, Brittany says it on the stairs in that really great scene. I was his and you were hers. But that's right. I mean, that's why I think this story for him is even more powerful, because I think of the bond he had with his mother. And that he really is kind of lost without her. So, but yes, as you said, I mean, I think the flashbacks, give us a glimpse of like another side of his character in a way, and what he was around and how he kind of was brought up in the world. And I think he's trying to find his own courage and strength to actually pursue his own dreams. That's the big shift, was the arc of his character was in the script, was that he's doing this job he doesn't really love. He wants to be a writer. He's creative. He wants to be doing something that's his own. And his mother is like, you need to be out there. You're a great writer. You should be doing this. Yep. And he's kind of hasn't really stepped up to the plate to do it. And in the film, I think is sort of, we wanted to give his character something that we can really connect to as an audience, that really he's saying that I get, okay, now he's going to now shift. This is like a rebirth for him as a person. And we use that as our kind of way to do that. Not just the connection with Alex, because we don't know, will they, won't they, the way we leave off in the sort of romantic side of Alexandra Shipp and Nick Jonas. But I think it's really everyone, I think, in a way in this film, I think has their own journey through this process and comes out the other side okay. They're going to be okay. Yeah. So.
How can we talk about the one scene without spoiling it? Because there's such a shocker in this movie that it's like I was actually yelling at the TV going, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I'm hoping that you understand what scene it is. When something happens in a club and I'm going, don't do it, don't do it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Because he's been dared to do something. So he does do it. He takes the steps up there, and oh my God, dude, that was such a scene.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, and I think it is such a scene, especially for someone like Nick. I think for his like background. Yes. But we just to kind of tell you, I mean, should we just talk about karaoke for a second?
Okay.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, first of all, I have a band called Rooney. I toured for a long time. That's where I met Nick, was on the road doing music. We toured together. And I like sing lead for my band Rooney, and I hate karaoke. Like I just feel terrified going up there, like singing with a mic and like a TV screen. Yes. So anyway, I totally relate to like not wanting to do karaoke. And it was funny working with an actor who's a singer. But my way around it was just to surprise him with the song in the film. I didn't want him to know. I didn't want him to go into it knowing the song we were doing. Wow. I wanted him to be a little caught off guard, so he wasn't like kind of running through it in his mind too much. But he's great. He does a great job. He makes it very fun and natural and kind of what it is. Like when you see the film, people listening, Nick Jonas, obviously known for music, totally knocks it out of the park, like as a leading performance in this film. But he, there is like a something closer to home for him. There's a karaoke scene, but I think we just had to make him not a professional singer.
Exactly.
So, and he had to like sing not professionally. I don't know. It's hard to not sing professionally when you've been doing it your whole life. It's good. It works. I think like it totally works. Like it's not like you couldn't put that recording out as a real recording because I don't think it would sound right. So he executed correctly.
You did really well in making sure that Nick was known as Rin, because right away, I mean, anybody's going to say, oh, I'm going to see Nick Jonas in a movie. Oh, Nick Jonas. But you know what? Once that story begins, no, it's Rin. It's not Nick Jonas. It's Rin.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm so with you. I've known Nick a long time. And I watch this movie and I'm just watching this character. Like I'm not bringing with me the person that we've seen, you know, the creation or the person that he is as a music performer. He's just Ren. Even if he's just, I mean, that's the beauty, that's the job. Like that's my job. That's his job. That's everyone's job, is to create this illusion that you like can believe in.
Yeah. So with you knowing Nick for 17 years, have you been to the family restaurant right here in Charlotte and Belmont?
No.
Oh,
never.
Dude, you've got to come. It's good Southern food, man. I mean, you got to get Nick to take you there because it is quite the experience in Belmont.
I had no idea. Now I know. Now I'm going to tell him, like, I never knew.
Yeah, come on, dude. You're hiding things.
I know. Exactly.
So do you see this as being a nominated film of the? I mean, in other words, by the end of the year, are people going to be going, love the writing, love the directing, love Nick, and because he really does, he stepped into a role that nobody knew that he could play, and everybody, even Elizabeth, everybody played their role perfectly.
I mean, I don't know. It's like I don't know. I never think about. I don't go into the movie thinking about. Okay. Success or like what's going to happen. I just try to make the best movie I can make. But I feel really happy with the movie and I want people to see it, but I don't put this like emphasis on, we got to make X amount of money or we got to win this amount of awards. Or I think the biggest award, honestly, I really believe this, is just people coming to me saying they liked the film. That's all. I mean, if the movie was like meaningful to you watching this movie, that's all I can ask for. Wow. Is just that you get a chance to see it, and I hope it means something to you. That really is all. That's why we make it. It's like to give people something.
Now, do listeners have to go to Fathom Events to get this? How is Fathom intertwined with this?
Fathom does these one night only theatrical screenings, so they were helpful in helping program the film across a lot of theaters. The easiest way for listeners is just take the title, thegoodhalfmovie.com is just a website built for ticketing. So you can just go there and like see where it's playing. You type in your zip code, and then you can find a theater near you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the best way to find out.
Wow. You've got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Robert. I love the way that you make movies and you share stories, and I just know there's so much more to you than just a 20-minute conversation.
Thank you. I really, really thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me on the show. And thanks for checking out the film, too.
You bet.
I hope everybody likes it. The Good Half.
You be brilliant today, okay, sir?
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take care.
Arrow?
Yes.
Can I get your air date real quick, please?
Tomorrow morning.
Got it. Okay, one moment. Lodge 3, you can say hello.
Hello and good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Oh, man, when somebody says that word fantastic, that means you're living it. You've got it inside your mind, body, and soul.
Yes, I do. Oh, I love that.
I have been waiting to share a conversation with you because you are someone who sees the future of culture before it arrives inside our eyes. And I just, that to me is an art as well as a beautiful gift.
That's so amazing. Oh, my God. I couldn't even say it better. I've been spending my whole life waiting for someone to say what you just said. But yes, that is my gift, and I'm very grateful. Glory to God for that ability. And that's why I'm so excited to be talking to you about Dress My Tour, because it's just that, revolutionary, fresh, on time, ahead of time. Because it's that time again for artists to really be able to put on a full experience, a full show, and we need the razzle-dazzle back.
Yeah, because we've never really had that opportunity as fans of music as well as fans of television shows to see how all of this fashion even comes into play.
Correct. And it's an eye-opening, awesome experience because you already know, as a creative director, you're like, okay, why did you put Gaga in an egg? Why the meat dress? Why did, you make her shoulders really big? Why'd you pick the bodysuit? So you get to really understand the why and what's unique about a costume designer process. And as a judge and a mentor from a creative director perspective, you see our collaboration, you understand it, and I get to express myself in a new way, but a way that I've been doing it, like you said before.
Yeah, see, and the way that you ask that question, why, to me, that reminds me so much of why an architect does the buildings they do. Why do I want that wall to look like this? Why do I want that door there and that window over there? If you don't break things down, how do you make great?
Oh, my goodness. You are such a blessing to my soul. And that's why I think this show is so inspiring for today's visionaries and everyone, because you're right. The why is the perspective, and that's where the uniqueness comes out. That's the greatness. Instead of us all looking alike, all doing the same thing. No, it's about being unique. It's about celebrating what's different in each of us and understanding that process creatively in music, fashion, and pop culture.
What do you do personally to help teach another person's body and imagination to set away and send away all the fears that they may have and to really just get into the fashion? Because fashion, to me, is telling a story. It's just like dancing. It's got to tell a story.
That's right. And as a storyteller, I just help them to understand their why. When you receive the challenge, what is different about your perspective on how you want to tell that story? And when I begin to pull that out of them, then we now can at least identify the road that you want to be on, the process that you need to take, the color, the fabric, the smell of the fabric.
Yes.
What does it look like to you in that world? And you start to craft a process that becomes their process, that becomes their brand, that allows people to identify with their brand. Oh, I want this style of costuming. Oh, he's the needle ninja. Oh, he uses textiles. I want to go there for this vision that my creative director has or I have as an artist. So you really understand it, and I think it helps to craft a perspective.
Wow. And one of the things that you're displaying on this show, Dress My Tour, is the fact that you're giving us that full view of, because we look at magazines, we go on the internet, we see those pictures of these beautiful, beautiful fashions, but we only see them for a brief moment. In this show, you show us from the ground up how this came into being, and then we get that final look.
Correct. And the payoff. So the payoff is great.
Yes.
The viewer takes the journey. They get to understand the why. They get to choose the fabric, the needling, the structuring, the biasing, the cutting, the pattern. The pattern. Without a strong pattern, this is not about Pinterest. They get to really understand and identify with a real process.
One of your guest judges is a young lady who's been on my show several times. I love her, JoJo Siwa. You talk about fashion and the stuff that she's put out there.
JoJo's an amazing guest judge, and we love her, and I love her, and she's so awesome. And I think it's the one thing about her that is reflective in these young designers is unique.
Yes.
Unique, you. And you have to drill that into them early so that they can hold on to that, because if not, they start doing what each other doing. They're glancing over at their work table. Oh, they picked that fabric. Oh, and their whys get mixed up. They get insecure. They get fearful. And what I love to pull out of artists early is the confidence in what makes them unique.
Do you see viewers becoming fashion designers themselves? Like we've all become, people, chefs in the kitchen, or we've become other things in life because of TV shows. I just feel like that every little girl and guy are going to become fashion fanatics.
Yes, and I think if you even want to identify your own personal style, then this will be a source of inspiration, because you will be like, why am I wearing that? Oh, I'm wearing that because they told me this is cool or this is the latest. No, I like my jeans to fit me this way, and maybe I'll add an accessory or a brooch or this or that. But you'll say, I want a piece that is uniquely, it makes me me.
Wow. You've got to come back to this show anytime in the future. I love where your heart is. I love your determination and your vision.
Oh, you're awesome. I feel we're a tribe. You're part of my tribe, and I have very rarely been seen as clearly as you've seen me. So thank you so much.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
All right, I will.
Thank you.
Hello, I've got your interview ready for you with Ken Goodman.
Okay, I'm ready to rock when you are then.
Excellent. Hey, do you have an air date for this interview?
Yeah, let me go to my program log real fast.
No worries.
Okay, I've got Ken scheduled for Sunday afternoon.
Perfect. And then how long did you want to go for?
About 10 minutes. I mean, I could go for an hour because I live in a forest. I mean, this is my life.
That's why I asked. Yeah. 10 minutes will be... What was your name again?
Arrow, as in bow and arrow.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right, give me 1 second, Arrow. I'll get you patched in. All right, Ken, I've got Arrow ready for you. He's going to go about 10 minutes on this one. Radio.
Hello, Arrow.
Hello, and good afternoon, Ken. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic, and very excited to speak with another tree lover and a tree hugger. I'm in this beautiful forest in South Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is my life, this collection of trees.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm originally from Albemarle, so I know where you are pretty well.
Oh, my God, you've got the Uori Forest over there. My God.
Yes, sir.
Wow. How did you fall in love with this journey with Forest Corps?
Good gosh. I am a returned Peace Corps volunteer.
Yeah.
So I found myself with both curiosity of working with other people who are different from me, as well as a passion for public and community service. That brought me to AmeriCorps, which is the federal agency for domestic service, and helping to address the health of our forests and the wildfire risks that exist around the United States is the opportunity that has recently been posed to us.
Mm-hmm. You actually are in love with the forest, then?
I am indeed.
Yeah. To get that word out, because we live in this generation where people are they're abusing the trees. I mean, they come in, wipe the land clean, and then they build homes. And the reason why I planted 1,700 trees right here in this area in 1997 was because I didn't want bare land. I wanted to have some great land where the deer and everybody could come back and play.
Love it, Arrow. One of the things that I appreciate about the United States, especially after having spent about 15 years of my career abroad, is that we do actually have some wonderful public lands and protected spaces, but we have to do work to maintain them healthy and to keep them robust and in shape for future generations.
One of the things that people don't understand about trees is the fact that we need them. They give us the air that we breathe. They also, the one thing I've studied is how mushrooms beneath the surface allow those trees to have communication. There's so much going on when it comes to a collection of trees.
Yeah, certainly our ecosystems and the beauty of what takes place in them, anything from the health issues you're mentioning, or just to the fact that most of the modern medicines that we use that try to keep us upright and moving forward in a healthy, positive way are primarily driven from our forests.
Yeah. Now, you were talking about being part of the Peace Corps. A lot of people don't know that here in the South, especially in the Charlotte area, there are many lakes and trees, a lot of forests because of the Peace Corps. You guys have dedicated yourself to this land here, creating these beautiful environments.
Yeah, wonderful. There's, certainly for those of you who get to call North Carolina home, particularly the southern part of your state, Charlotte Metro, a rich history of returned Peace Corps volunteers that continue to serve and give back. And then you also have a large population of AmeriCorps members, which is, wonderful.
So, Ken, my big question about these modern times is there's a lot of wildfires, and they are huge and very dangerous. Are we replacing the trees?
Well, that is in part why I have the chance to join you today, Arrow. So on the AmeriCorps side of things, the AmeriCorps National Civilian Community Corps, or NCCC, which is the program I'm the national director for, has recently entered into a partnership with the United States Forest Service. And that partnership is to bring young adults ages 18 to 26 into a 10 to 11 month full-time service commitment to serve in the United States National Forest, particularly in the Western United States, where we're seeing a higher risk and more frequency and intensity of wildfires. So there's going to be work taking place under the Forest Corps program to both work on wildfire mitigation, things like prescribed burns, collecting brush, as well as on reforestation efforts such as collecting and cataloging seeds. So yes, there is active work underway. And for young adults, ages 18 to 26, service in the AmeriCorps NCCC Forest Corps could be one way that they could get involved.
How do they get involved? I mean, do they go to a website? I mean, I'm sure there's listeners going, "Whoa, I want to do this."
Yeah. Well, the easiest place to get started would be at the website, so AmeriCorps.gov/Forest Corps. There's a lot of information available there, Arrow, but there's also the opportunity through that website to sign up for informational webinars so that people can join and have their own individual questions addressed, learn more about the program, and see if it's a good fit for them.
Are you also helping out with cities like Charlotte with their greenways? Because it seems like greenways are the big thing these days.
Love greenways, and good gosh, certainly in Charlotte, you all have some absolutely fantastic ones. So the AmeriCorps NCCC Forest Corps program is focused primarily on public lands, our nation's national forests and grasslands, so we wouldn't be focused on greenways.
Okay.
However, under the broader AmeriCorps umbrella, and AmeriCorps is the federal agency for service and volunteerism, there are plenty of programs and opportunities available to work on greenways and to help cities like Charlotte that are trying to help protect some of their urban green spaces to be successful in those pursuits.
And that also includes a lot of these developments have watersheds. And I wish that these neighborhoods would start taking care of those watersheds. Don't let it just become another reason for erosion. They can plant trees there.
Yes, yeah, that they certainly can, and those types of hands-on projects to either plant trees or to help reduce erosion. That's exactly the type of work that AmeriCorps NCCC members are going to be doing in the Forest Corps program on public lands. But as we discussed earlier, there's also other AmeriCorps programs that can do that in things like greenways in and around lovely locations like Charlotte.
When it comes to planting the trees, I know that all of my trees came as seedlings. Is that how you start as well? Is that the seedlings arrive and the team goes out and puts them in the ground?
Yeah, it can be. Typically, when we're working, when AmeriCorps NCCC is working with the Forest Service, for example, they'll have tree nurseries.
Yeah.
So yes, they're doing the seed work and then, working to generate saplings, and then those are, transplanted in.
Yeah, because people need to understand there is a relationship when you put that seedling in the ground and you document it and you watch it as it grows through the different seasons and things. When I walk out in this forest, I swear to God, Ken, these trees are talking to me, and I want other people to experience it as well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful connection. There's certainly they are living beings, and science tells us that when plants are actually spoken to the same way we would speak to pets, they do typically grow stronger, taller, and more robust.
So does AmeriCorps hang out for a little bit while these trees are, growing and things so that you can see if the wildlife is coming back?
So for the AmeriCorps NCCC, or for the National Civilian Community Corps program where I work, Arrow, the teams are typically in and out.
Wow.
So we would show up for, let's say, a 3-month period, work in one national forest to help them address their priority needs, and then we would move to another national forest. So AmeriCorps NCCC's model is short-term, high-impact, but there are other AmeriCorps programs that allow the AmeriCorps member to stay longer in one service location, so they're able to see some of those longer-term sustained results.
You know what I just got out of that? If you want to see the nation, join AmeriCorps, because right there's an opportunity where you can go to different places year-round, right?
That is correct. So for AmeriCorps NCCC, for young adults ages 18 to 26, if you're interested in seeing the country, gaining new skills, meeting new people, and making a difference, we can provide that opportunity for you, and that's AmeriCorps.gov.
Man, next time you come to the Carolinas, we got to get together, and I would love to walk through this forest here in South Charlotte. I mean, we're in a city, but we created a forest. I would love to show this off to you.
You're on.
Dude, man, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Arrow, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay, Ken?
All right, all the best.
Okay, bye-bye.